You want actually? You can play some space music in the background if you want. I'm listening right now to like a really great.
We're live, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I don't have a mixing.
There you go.
You share the link. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'll create the mood.
You have to share the screen and share the sound, wouldn't you?
Oh
Yeah.
One thing about StreamYard is it doesn't have a good sound thing where you can just be like, I want to play this MP3 on loop.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon, viewers. This is Happy Sunday. This is a fun lore stream with our lovely host, Al Shire.
AI Shire.
AI Shire. Here I proposed a deep dive onto Krogan, which later became the broader Mass Effect politics, because it is quite an in-depth game when it comes to lore.
I could do so many streams on this.
Yeah, we could do like a whole stream on every single race in the game. But I wanted to focus on Mass Effect because in broader senses, it provides a more realistic view of how space is going to be. I think we oftentimes think of like maybe due to sci-fi or Star Trek, but like, humans are going to be all united and go into space as one group.
Yeah.
We're going to find other unified races, and everyone's going to be a happy family. It's just going to be the League of Nations in space, right?
The sad thing about the Mass Effect universe is, what will space actually be like in the future? Terribly bureaucratic. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. the realism, there is a thread in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Where space is projected to be far more blander than we expect. I also remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the bureaucrats rule the world, the universe. But to get on the topic, we can start with maybe humanity, I guess.
Systems Alliance.
Yeah. So, well, not exactly. So in the game, the Systems Alliance is the extraterrestrial government of Earth, but Earth itself is not part of the alliance, which is really an interesting caveat.
Yes, because it's
So when humanity first reached out to the stars, they got their hand bitten by a dog called the I forgot their name already. The bird people.
The skull people.
Yeah.
We're
not good fans. We're not good. Not Krogan. Turians.
Come on, guys.
So the first contact war for humanity was the first contact as well. Essentially, the Turians were these bird people who featherless bird people. Big important thing. So they're basically dinosaurs who didn't know who humans were. They were messing with things they didn't understand, and so they got like whipped. And the humans are like, oh, no, you didn't. And then they went to war over it. And then the humans were actually starting to turn the war in their favor before the main Turian fleet was arriving. And so that during the war, the humans took back a planet that the Turians had invaded and repelled them. But then the broader galactic government shut down the entire war. And this kind of created a blue ball situation for the Turians, where they could have won in the long run. But the quote unquote Citadel, i.e. the UN, intervened to prevent it, and so it ended in a human victory because of bureaucratic intervention rather than military might. And thus, the first experience for humanity in the galactic community was, if you take things quickly before the man notices, you get away with it.
Well, it's because it's really odd, isn't it, in the Mass Effect world universe, where suddenly Earth has like as much space as the Council does.
Yeah.
All these races, and it's like, no, we got this all. This is all ours now.
Yeah. So this is a very fun part of the universe where like the humans basically were like breaking they're hot shits, and the galactic community somewhat enjoys them in sense of like from the council's perspective, by bringing the humans in, they double their space. But from the human perspective, by submitting to the council, they now have all the more nations and military powers to manipulate. So the first game, let's skip to the point. Earth itself is a restoration of the British Empire, shall we say?
Yeah,
more or less.
The capital is London. The world governments are Anglo-centric with a little bit of input from Latin America and China. but there's a clear emphasis on the British style of government.
Yeah, the constitutional monarchy wins. It wins.
So we don't know what happened to America in the story, but it's hinted that America collapsed.
The economic collapse.
all right.
Yeah. There's the head of the Statue of Liberty at one point you find in a museum.
Yeah, isn't it to do? If you read Arrival, which is the book, which is the prequel book about the First Contact War, I think that goes into some detail about what happened to Earth, and he really, Carpenter, the guy who wrote most of the universe, really kind of just brushes over what happens on Earth. He just goes, "Oh yeah, they found the things on Mars. America collapsed. Suddenly, the major power in the West was Britain again, and blah blah blah. They took on a parliament and a prime minister. Then Mars happened, and then next thing you know, everyone's like, okay, maybe we should like form behind this British body called the Alliance."
Yes. So whilst the Earth's government submitted to the greatest power that ever existed, known as Great Britain, there was a decision that humans going into space are going to be divided. Like independent nation states are going to scatter about, and there's probably going to be more infighting than necessary. And so the sovereign British government wanted some kind of unified front for when humans go to space. And so they created this thing called the Alliance, which, while not properly British in subject, it's technically independent. It is also subject to Earth's will. So the Alliance is basically the face of humanity off of Earth. And whenever humans go to space, they typically do it in the form of the Alliance, because the Alliance has the main budgeting and capacity to fund projects. Though human projects are technically like very disorganized, very ununified, but they usually fall within the scope of the Alliance.
It's Space NATO.
It is, but it's Space NATO with a British headship. Because again, emphasis: the capital of NATO NATO, the capital of the Alliance is in fact in Vancouver, and the Alliance also has a parliament, not a Senate or a Congress. The Alliance has I think it has a prime minister or something. So it's basically like they copy pasted the British government and put it in space. The official like HQ, like there's an Earth capital in Vancouver, Canada. Hence hinting once again the Commonwealth reigns supreme. But there's also like a kind of space capital at the Arcturus station or on another star. And this is like considered more of a nexus point because Arcturus goes to a lot of different places. On this note, we can talk about Mass Effect's infrastructure, I guess. The entire galaxy is unified by mass
relays.
Mass relays, that's the word. And Arcturus, the one that humans found, happens to have like a large nexus to many places. If you zoom in, you can probably find Arcturus somewhere on the Alliance space.
Hold on a sec.
But the richness of this is quite fascinating because like you basically have like governments within governments to some extent. So on Earth, the Commonwealth reigns supreme. In space, the Alliance is the body of humanity. And a broader intergalactic space, the Council reigns supreme, and the Alliance has joined the Council at the start of Mass Effect 1, but isn't quite in. They're not represented. The Council has nations that are members, but they're also like a political body, which not everybody who's a member is represented in the political body.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, where's Earth in this?
It's Sol. It's the Sol system, Earth, in Mass Effect. So if you were, so the Sol system is, it should be towards the center. It's not on the map.
You can see Arcturus there to the center. Center at 6 o'clock.
All right. Okay. That's a bit off. Or local cluster. You're looking for the local cluster, which is on the edge of Council space.
Yeah.
So for some reason, Earth. We just go straight into the Attican Traverse and ruin it and piss off all the Batarians.
Yes, so let's mention you want to talk about the Batarians?
Yeah, let's talk about the Space Russians.
Space North Koreans.
Oh, yeah. Space North Koreans. Okay, whatever. I come Space. Okay, go on.
Oh, you can do it.
Oh, do you really do? Okay, so basically, when the humans came onto the galactic scene, there was this other race of bipedal, four-eyed people who were extremely authoritarian and very isolationist, though they did have a lot more of a say before the humans turned up. And these were the Batarians. And the Batarians actually not far from humanity locally within in the galaxy. I don't know how you can describe local in the galaxy, but there we are. And so when the Alliance began to expand into they often took their colonies and expanded into their space. And so there was a great period of war between the Batarians after the First Contact War, which I'll leave Knight to explain because it's quite I'm not too clean on that, but there was a lot of wars between the Batarians and the humans, and there's this thing called the Skillian Blitz, which is where basically Earth BTFO'd the Batarian forces, and then that's where Commander Shepard comes in. Is in that, isn't it? Is in the Skillian Blitz, and basically knock him out back into the Attican Traverse. And so the Batarians have this big vendetta against humanity throughout the entire games, but it isn't helped by Shepard blowing up a mass relay in one of their systems.
Now that's a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
So after the First Contact War, humanity realized that the bureaucrats of the universe are a bit slow on the news.
Probably explain what the First Contact War is.
Yeah. So basically,
Oh yes, I can.
Yep.
The First Contact War. I'll just bring up some. I saw some good concept art. So if you want to, Cringewalker, if you want to go into it, I'll just bring up some.
Yeah. There's a whole book a comic book about it.
It's basically one big misunderstanding.
Yeah. So humanity, once they discovered the mass relays, and again, mass relays exist at the galaxy from a previous civilization. They're like a mechanism to
So
move
there's
around.
this okay. Again, there's a civilization called the Protheans. They just they supposedly before the first game starts, you learn that they left a load of tech around the universe that basically is uplifting all these civilizations, and humanity discovered one of their things on Earth. But then you eventually realize that it wasn't the Protheans that made all this tech. It was another race called the Leviathans,
The Reapers.
who then invented the Reapers, and it just goes all complicated. But just pretend it's the Protheans.
Let's try to structure the depth of this.
So the Protheans left all this tech around for us.
So to speak of it simply, when Boris Johnson successfully managed Brexit and restored the Commonwealth to its proper glory, the first thing he did was send a mission to Mars on the Royal Space Force.
Yes, in the Royal Space Flotilla.
And on Mars, they found ruins, some mysterious ruins that had data caches, and the humans couldn't quite translate everything on it because it's obviously an alien language, but did jumpstart their technology, and they soon realized that their solar system had what was known as a mass relay. And a mass relay is a relic from a past civilization called the Protheans. We already went over that. And so humans started just activating these mass relays and spreading out through the galaxy and colonizing everything they could find. Little did they know that this was illegal under intergalactic law. Because long ago, before humanity, the bureaucrats are doing this too, and they accidentally found an invasive force on one of the mass relays, and it caused a big war. And we can talk about that when we get to the Krogans, but basically, when they finally won that war, the bureaucrats were like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. It's illegal to open up the mass relays without scientifically checking it out first. Because every mass relay is a mystery. You don't know what you're going to find on the other side. It could be nanites. It could be a friendly civilization. It could be God. Who knows? And so
it also didn't help at the time. Humans hadn't developed the translation technology.
Yes. So talking was not an option.
Yeah.
And when humans can't talk, they typically shoot first.
Well, imagine speaking to a Turian, which is a giant bird person. Yeah, they'd just be going like that to you, and you'd be wondering what is going on.
Yeah. So, upon one of the planets that the humans, one solar system the humans unlocked the mass relay to, they colonized the planet, and then it happened to be in Turian patrol space, and the Patrolians came along. The Turians came along. Yes, there you go. That's a console's correct. The Turians came along and were like, "What's this? Who are these mysterious monkeys, and why are they toying with things they don't understand? That's illegal." And the Turians, being very good servants of the bureaucracy, I guess you could say they're the perfect, how shall we say, servants of the cathedral.
Yeah.
They are the military arm of the council.
Yes.
It's also important to note that at this time, the Turians also vassalized. What are those?
Lawless.
Volus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who are space? No doubt they are space Jews.
they're space Jews. So
they are mercantile. They are very canny with
they talk like
money.
this.
Yeah.
and they have they sniff like they have big noses. You can tell the person who
Yes.
designed them was like stereotypical Jewish guy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make him a mole in a suit.
Yes. Anyway,
Oh,
so
it's bad.
the military having the banks behind them had very little restriction, and so when they found the monkeys known as man toying with the mass relays and knew this was illegal, they immediately occupied the colony, cut off the mass relay, and were like, "No, you can't do that. Who are you? Why are you doing this?" Of course, the humans, upon seeing this, just saw angry birds going "Brrr" to them, and when humans see dinosaurs aiming guns at them, demanding they stop, obviously the humans are gonna shoot first, and this caused the First Contact War. And the First Contact War was very short, very brief, but at first,
Anderson made his name there.
yeah, at first the Turians occupied Shang-Chi, I believe the colony was. Oh, I'm getting yelled at. Hold on a second.
Yeah, Shang-Chi was what the Turians first off.
So the Shang-Chi colony was colonized,
Alright.
and well, I lost my train of thought. So Shang-Chi was colonized by the humans. The Turians occupied it when they realized it was illegal, and then the humans were like, "What?" And so they sent out a signal, and then this was the first war that the Alliance was tested in, I suppose. Now, one of the things I've always wondered is like, why did the Alliance build these big, powerful spaceships that could match the Turians without ever having contact with them? But we're not worried about
We're humans.
I heard in the lore. I saw it was a lore video that someone else did. Apparently, and I think this goes back to the comics, that because they found the mass relay on Mars, or the remnants on Mars.
No, the mass relay was discovered on Pluto. Pluto was orbiting an object. They noticed that Pluto was orbiting an object, didn't they?
Yeah,
and it was orbiting the mass relay.
Well, no, Charon and Pluto orbit each other in like a co-orbit sphere. Anyway.
But they anticipated alien civilizations which were advanced. So when it came to their contacts with the Turians, they weren't exactly surprised, and that's what was stated in I think one of the comments. They weren't really that surprised, and so when the fighting happened, they were already prepared, because this shock and surprise was what they discovered on Mars. It wasn't that was really it. But obviously, then when you had the council, which then intervened and then revealed themselves to humans, saying, actually, no, this is like the international global homo community that we got going on here. So yeah, that and so then that's when everything they all joined. To
be fair, right, it's not as centralized as say the UN is in our world. It's
that I'll get to that in a second. But like I think it's important to notice that like the humans had an advantage when they went into space because they found the Mars cache of data cache. So humans were basically using original humans were basically using original Prothean technology that had been adopted to human technology. And so they had a massive advantage going into the galaxy. Because most civilizations, they get like occasional like ruins of cities and stuff like that, not huge data caches. The humans found a library, and this was like extremely lucky for them. And so they had like centuries worth of Prothean data to just go through. But when the first game starts, like decades after the First Contact War, they're still translating the library on Mars. They're still learning new technology.
They're doing it by the end of the third one, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're still translating it throughout the entire game because it's just so much data. So the humans essentially have a capital on huge swathes of Prothean data that the rest of the galaxy kind of only has bits and pieces of. And this kind of sets the humans up in like a unique way where like they kind of show up on the scene. They show this like they show up on the Turians like French door with a big fleet, knock them off the human colony that they occupied. And for a while, it looks like the humans are actually like pushing the victory.
It also so happens that the most developed part of Prothean space was human alliance space.
Yeah. So yes, and later on in the game, you kind of discover...
I just want to say a little side thing note, right? When they discovered that the possibility of, what was it, Planet 9?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, there's this big gravity well just beyond Pluto. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, massive.
Is it a mass relay?
It could, not for nothing, but the fact that we haven't found it yet, but it seems to have a gravitational impact of something the size of of like Neptune or Jupiter is very promising. It might end up being a bit of a neutron star that we could like harvest some resources on, but it could also be alien technology.
If a neutron star, we'd be fucking terrified.
No, a fragment of a neutron star with a gravity well of Jupiter is fine. It's just like kind of like a guardian at the end of the galaxy that knocks out all the comets that can destroy us. But anyway, so the humans are winning the war in the first contact war. The Turians run away, and the main Turian fleet gets ready to go to war. But at the same time, the global homos, the Citadel are like, wait a second, who are these mysterious, powerful apes on the corner of our territory that we never noticed? Maybe it'd be better just like make them join us. and so the Citadel forces a peace with Turians and humans, and the Turians are kind of like angry, but they're honor bound, so they honor the treaty. The humans are just like, haha, we're the new guys on the block. And
the treaty itself was quite interesting because the Turians had to pay reparations to the Earth, to the humans, which also was a bit like bitter because all their I think it was like all their gains they just had to hand over back to the humans.
Yeah, but in return, humans limited the amount of frigates they could have.
Yeah, so the humans they accepted the reduction of their military force in exchange for like a lot of political power. Typical British peddling.
then typically we found a loophole and started creating these things called space carriers.
Yes. So typical British strategy: obey the laws and subvert them.
Yeah, obey and subvert.
So later on though, the Turians and the humans actually end up being more allied to each other because they realize, like, as translations occur and as they get to know each other, they realize they have a lot more in common than different. Like, because both the humans and the Turians are like very emphasizing like military tradition and honor, and both of them have this like view that they really should like keep the peace and keep the order. And so the Turians and humans start to grow a lot closer. So when the first game starts a few decades after the first contact war, the Turians and humans have gotten close enough that they are co-producing ships with the same technology to share, which was the ship that you start on, the Normandy. The Normandy is the main ship of the game. Actually, I'll turn on the camera.
It's the Concorde of the galaxy.
It is.
It is. It's based. I swear the concept for it was based on Concorde, wasn't it?
Yeah. Here, AI, if you maximize my screen,
right down to the shape of its its nose.
Yeah. So
if you click on Knight's window.
Yeah.
AI.
Maximize it.
And you can in the top right it should say you can enlarge him to the full screen.
So I have this little like.
How do I do that?
So you click on his window, and it should give you an option in the top right of his window, to say like go full to like make primary or something like that. There we go.
There you go. So the Normandy here, there's a lot of concept here. I have the official art book, of course, and so this is wonderful. The Normandy is like probably right there upside down. The Normandy is a wonderful ship. Let me see if I can get this going. And the Normandy is a very beautiful ship. It's one of my favorite ships in the entire game. It is a mix of Turian and human technology. So it has a Turian like arch over here. This is a very Turian feature, as well as like the wing structure. But it also has this like human like kind of like framing and stuff to go with it. It's a weird mix of it.
It's Space Concorde.
Yes, it is a Space Concorde. That's all I want. That's all I want to show.
We're just seeing that.
Yeah.
We've lost your image.
There we go.
And so the humans and Turians start doing things together outside of Citadel authority, like the Normandy. The Normandy is a Citadel authorized, or a Citadel. I don't think the Citadel knows much about the Normandy, but the humans and the Turians co-produce the Normandy.
So this starts happening, right? After the first contact war, suddenly humans and Turians become best friends. So basically, what happens is that the humans and Turians start going behind the Asarians and Salarians' backs quite a lot on things, and I think they start cooperating on colonies and dealing with terminus systems and all this stuff, don't they?
Yeah. So in many ways, the Turian, being the military arm of the Citadel, kind of welcomes in the humans as like extra military force. and you have this careful alliance where like they're both pretty still semi-racist to each other for all the hardship of the First Contact War, but in many ways they're like the Scots and the English, just like banter, much banter, but co-marching, I guess you'd call it.
I guess they have similar ends.
And this
Space
starts.
Sorry, we'll talk about the Turian structure later on. But yeah.
No, if you want to start on the Turians, we can get into them now.
Well, because they're space Romans.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into the. Should we get into the Turians? So, if I just bring up the Turians.
So the Turians are avian, and they what is it? What is it? They have a different kind of biology where they have exoskeleton.
So every molecule that exists in the universe can be mirror imaged because not everyone, but many molecules can be mirror imaged because they're symmetrical. So the Turians have a mirror image of our DNA structure, where like basically it means that they can't eat human food. They'll like basically just die on human food. So there are challenges to human Turian like alliances, like working on the same ship, because you effectively double the resources you need in terms of like storage. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they also have a lot of similarities in terms of like climate and stuff like that. So like Turians and humans are lucky in this sense, because that means they can basically divide their colonies between, like if they find a planet with DNA that goes one way or the other way, like that's the roll of the dice that decides if it's a Turian or human colony. And so like if the DNA on an alien world spins the way that human DNA goes, that the humans claim that colony. If it spins the other way, it's a Turian colony. And this effectively allows the humans and Turians to coexist without too much conflict, because they fundamentally can't exist on each other's worlds, but they do have the same goals. And it's like, both of their worlds and climates are similar in the sense like oxygen and nitrogen, but the food items on the world have to be like unique for each other. And so it's typically understood that, depending on what colony you find, you can live on each other's worlds, but you can't eat the food on each other's worlds or you'll die, basically.
I was going to say, like, also with the Turians, they were if I remember correctly, they were very decentralized because they went through that civil war period, and I think this sort of highlights the different colonies, because the more colonies they had and the more settling colonists, they were less likely to have that sort of cultural attachment with the mother world. And so what they would do is to identify themselves as a colony. They would paint their face in various like images. So you got here, so you got like the Thracia colony, the Gothas colony, and so on and so on. And they became pretty much they were pretty much independent until you had the Civil War, when the home world decided to get these pesky colonists back under home rule. And then I think there's a saying, there's like I think it's like a derogative term you hear like in the games and such, where they call them, is it like clear face or when you haven't got any like markings on your face,
a tribe or colony, whatever.
Yeah. So it's fundamentally impossible to have deconstructing global homo ideologies in Turian society.
Yeah, it's near enough impossible, and they're quite based actually. So
yeah,
because it's a military. It's basically a hunter, isn't it? That's basically what runs it. It's basically a Caesar. They have a Caesar who's called a Primarch. Is it? I can't remember. Or am I thinking that's just the representative?
Primarch. The Primarch rules the Turian systems.
Yeah, so the Primarch is the Caesar. And then they obviously have the like a Grand Council on the capital planet is trying to remember Palavin. Palavin. Yeah. And they and so on Palavin then they have a grand military council, don't they? Which then they have a Primarch who leads that, and that Primarch then appoints an ambassador to the Citadel, who then appoints a councillor or something like that, if I remember. Yeah. You guys go. Can you continue for me?
Yeah. So the Turians, I guess that's pretty much all we know about the Turians in terms of like you don't see a lot of Turian systems or
It's
colonies.
a shame you don't get to go to Palaven. It's a shame you don't get to go on Palaven. You know.
According to the wiki, guess what the population of Palaven, their home world, is?
It's quite low, isn't it?
Oh no, it's well, it depends. It's actually 6.1 billion.
Okay, right.
And the capital is called Kiprotine.
Right. Okay.
And
yeah,
I think the orbital station and like the areas around the planet, you got a population of about 350,000. So that's like military.
Yeah.
I imagine that's like military and defense and those sort of things. So I mean, they seem to be quite. I guess they're in many ways they're quite similar to Earth.
Yeah.
That in sort of general like size, population, strength, they seem to be quite similar.
In the universe, Turian society is only about maybe 4,000 years older.
It was uplifted by the Asari.
No, they weren't uplifted. They were just like very slow to get to the galaxy. Like Turians only got into the galaxy about 1,000 years before humanity, and so the society and culture-wise, they're about the same as humanity. They're about 1,000 years ahead, but like they didn't have much advancement underneath the.
What's that? One Asari lifespan?
Yeah. So Turians more or less like they're basically like slightly more advanced than humanity. They had a dark age during the colony period, so in many ways they didn't advance in that 1,000 years extra of time that they were in space than humanity. I think if I remember correctly, the Asarians found them sometime around the 1600s in Earth calendar. I forget, but they haven't had a huge time in the universe and the galaxy. They basically developed around the same time as humanity. Their society evolved around the same time as humanity, and they got to space only a few centuries before humanity. So fundamentally, there are in many ways a projection of what humanity could become in the future, because like humanity's still in the colonization phase. They haven't had much like the biggest colony of humanity is only a few million people, so they're still growing, they're still developing, and in the future humans could end up having a kind of civil war similar to the Turians had. For this reason, the Turians and like the Turians in many ways the older brother of humanity that wants to help the younger brother get well off, basically.
Yeah, and they also got the way that they got their membership to the Citadel was putting down the Krogan Rebellion.
Yes.
Which was their route in. I think that was 900 AD. So
so it would be a little bit earlier than I thought.
Yeah, and should we go on to the Asari next?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking you could lead into the Krogan Rebellions, but okay.
Oh, we can go to Krogan Rebellion.
Krogan Rebellion, because Asari are kind of their own thing. They're the oldest.
So I can talk a bit about the because it was multiple rebellions, wasn't it? So the rebellions, like it was by the Krogan. I guess it was like various clans. I don't think it was all of the Krogan society, but it was effectively the council's concessions to who was it? The Krogan were given conquered Rachni planets.
So the Krogan were a race. Krogan are basically a race of space dinosaurs. Again, real space dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And the Krogan were uplifted specifically because they're insanely well bred for combat.
Yeah. So here's a photo of one. I guess you can see.
By uplifted, we mean that basically the Salarians went down to Tachanka, which is their capital, which was a war-torn planet, and said, "Look, we'll uplift you and bring you into the galaxy if you can put down this evil race of super intelligent hive mind space arachnids."
Yeah.
Called the Rachni.
To talk more on the Krogan, they were essentially like kind of in their Cold War era went nuclear, and so they destroyed their own planet. and what was left of them try to rebuild society. And so when the backstory of them is that, like, again, opening up mass relays without knowing what's behind them took a bad turn for the Citadel, and they found what were known as the Arachni, and the Arachni were basically hive-minded, like, space bugs, kind of like Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
And essentially the Arachni just flood into Citadel space and cause this big mess, and the Citadel didn't really know what on earth to do with them. At this point in time, the Citadel, if I remember correctly, it was only Salarians and Asari. So it's basically just two species on the Citadel, maybe a third.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
And so I think it was Asari or
It was Salarian, Asari, and was it Volilix? They apparently the third oldest species on the Citadel, but they got really pissed off because the humans got a seat before them.
Yeah. So I think the Volus were there. So there weren't many space civilizations unified under the Citadel at that time, because it's like 1,000 years before. And essentially, the Asari had been there for a couple of thousand years, and then the Salarians were found a few centuries prior. And the Salarians are scientists, and so they were cracking open Mass Effects right and left, trying to figure out new stuff. And one was Arachni, and the Arachni flooded in, and the Salarians and the Asari were like, "Oh my God, what is this mess? How do we deal with this? Oh no!" And essentially, they got desperate. And on one of the planets that they were observing, that were like kind of like not spacefaring people yet. I think the Krogan were like sort of spacefaring, but not really. They were post-apocalyptic. What?
They had spacefaring technology before their downfall. I think they had satellite and stuff, technology and everything before they nuked themselves into oblivion. So they set themselves back. But in the council has a rule where that if you haven't reached a certain point yet, they can't uplift you.
Yeah.
And I think basically there's that point, you learn this in the Citadel DLC on Mass Effect 2. There's that species which the Shadow Broker is, which is another big hole we might go down another day.
Yeah.
Who is was a unuplifted race, supposed to be, but isn't there like some like, because they were in the Terminus system, didn't some like slavers and stuff start slaving their planet? Well, they weren't ready yet.
Yeah. What, with the Krogan or the other little guys?
Whoever I can't remember the race now. What they're called. They're awful. But the Krogan were not quite in that spot. They were civilized to some extent, but they had nuked themselves.
The Krogan had a very high birth rate. Like, they could breed out like a dozen warriors every couple of years. They were very high breeders, and this was one of the reasons they could survive their nuclear apocalypse, because they just kept breeding so much that radiation didn't matter. That like every time like radiation would like kill them from cancer after like maybe 20 years, but they just would make 20 more people.
It does help as well that they are literally dinosaurs with really thick skin.
Yeah. So they're also a very redundant species, like redundant organ species. So they have like redundant organs all over the place, and it's not exactly clear if this was before or after the nuclear apocalypse. But essentially, the Krogan that the Asari found, or the Salarians found, were very high breeders, very strong warriors, and very like obedient essentially to their clan masters. And so, from the Salarian opinion was, look, we need something to fight the Arachni, and we have this super soldier, fast breeding species that we found. Why not just uplift them and put them to the war? And so, from the Krogan perspective, they were offered wars, which is what they crave. Yes, that's a typical Krogan diplomacy right there. This is Krogan diplomacy. So the Salarian and Asaris offered the Krogans the opportunity for honorable war, which is what they crave as a culture, and in exchange for basically getting off their apocalyptic planet, if they fought the war. And so the Krogan world, the clan masters of the Krogan world were like, this sounds like a really good deal. We fight an honorable war, which is what we have. We haven't had that since the nuclear war. And again, like the nuclear war made the Krogans very like hateful to crazy technology and science, because for them the nuclear war ended the opportunity for honor. There was no. What?
They became people who less cared about the nitty-gritty and just said, let's take a hammer to it.
Yeah, and essentially the Krogans were very sad, not because the world was lost, but because they could no longer fight honorable wars with technology. And so from the Krogan perspective, this is an opportunity to fight an honorable war, to regain their societal honor, so long that they, and not only that, but to get new opportunities, like a new future off of their planet. So the Krogan clan masters agreed, and then the clan masters are basically like this like disorganized semi-League of Nations on Krogan world. And they agreed, and so they were taking off many hundreds of thousands were taken off the planet, and essentially given colonies where they bred, and every decade you'd have like dozens of more warriors ready for the front. I think the Krogans matured very fast. I think like in a few years they're ready for war. So basically like every 7 years you had like hundreds of thousands of new soldiers. And the Rachni War was a very century-long conflict, but the Krogan really turned it around. And because not only that, but like the Rachni typically lived on very like hazardous planets. They were like bugs that could live in any environment. And so many of the worlds that the Rachni thrived on were similar to the apocalyptic mess that the Krogan came from. And so the Krogan could easily adapt and knew those kind of Turians already because they had spent their entire advanced civilization in that kind of situation. So the Krogan essentially colonized through war the Rachni worlds. and I guess in Stellaris you'd call them a tomb world race. And so essentially the Rachni War was won by the Krogan arm, and the Krogan basically just won out the war. However, after the war, there was a problem. The Krogan were still breeding very quickly and constantly needing new worlds to colonize every like 20 years, basically. And so, although they were uplifted and won the war for the Citadel, and the Rachni were basically sent into extinction, they now needed to deal with the Krogan that were breeding and forming clans and new worlds and civil wars and making a mess. And essentially, you just replace one problem with a new problem. Cue the Salarians, I suppose, at this point.
Okay, so we go into the so I guess Salarians then.
Yeah. Does anyone want to talk about them?
I was going to talk about the Asari because
I'm back now.
Oh, okay. I know you're
well,
gone.
I guess we could talk about them.
What's this?
So the Salarians.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Space lizards.
Space
Frogs.
Space salamanders.
Yeah,
Space
so they were the
salamanders.
second species to join the Citadel.
Yeah.
And they their native planet is
Sarkesh.
Sarkesh, that's it, yeah. And
They have a very short lifespan and a very high metabolism.
at a metabolism rate, yeah.
Yes.
And I think the age limit is like for them is 40.
Yeah, they do
Yeah.
not live long.
They don't live long. They're basically very narrow-minded. They have like a non-linear thinking. They're very good at research, aptitude for research and espionage, apparently. And
Well, yeah. So basically, the Salarians specialize in intelligence, military intelligence, and information. So they have this thing. Their big thing is that they have STG.
Yeah. So
which is Space MI5.
Yeah. So the Salarians, they don't really have a military. They don't really have like stuff like that. They were never really into wars. They focus more on tech and espionage, and so because they're so weak and they live for such a short time that war for them was just not really advisable. So they're one of the few people in the galaxy who are unified as a people. Like there's one government for their one planet, and they have many colonies, and they basically did everything in unison because they just live so short that they don't have much of a choice. That there's no time. They don't live long enough to have great glories and enjoy them. They can only make advancements in science and espionage, and then end their lives happy and content. Most Salarians will just be out of college by like year 7, and then like spend about 20 years doing research and then die. That's all they can really do. Now the thing is, the Salarians, they were the ones who uplifted so the Salarians also like make a lot of mistakes. They were the ones who opened the gates to the Rachni. They're also the ones who uplifted the Krogan and now had to deal with the new problem. So like the Salarians have a pretty long history of just fucking things up,
Yeah.
making a mess, having to clean it up, and not cleaning up very well. And so they're kind of like the runts of the galaxy. The Asari like them for the science and stability that they bring inside, but outside they make complete messes of themselves.
I mean, due to the location of their home world, Takesh, I believe it's one of the. I mean, they haven't been invaded by the Reapers, unlike other races. So they've
Because it's
been
far in the interior.
Yeah. So they've been quite lucky. And again, their population of their planet, their home world, is about 10.3 billion inhabitants.
Yeah.
Which is not too bad for a population that has I guess such a short lifespan.
I guess though, if you're like a frog and you have because they literally do tadpoles, they become.
They do tadpoles.
Yeah, they are they grow from tadpole too, and they have like ceremony. Like it's basically. Have you watched Futurama? You know, like Kif's race, the aliens race. They're like Zap Brannigan's like underling.
Yeah.
That is essentially the same race of what Salarians are. They have tadpoles, like ceremonial waters and all this, and they have mating contracts. Because
they're end cap too, right?
They're basically like Andrew Ryan, how he sees things. They don't really do. They don't have much of a ethics in terms of science. Hence why they created the Genophage and said this is a perfectly fine thing to do.
Yes, we'll get to that next. Yeah. So the reason why what?
Oh, you showed a child Salarian.
Oh, let me see. I had my screen minimized.
He's a big child, but probably in reality he's like a middle-aged guy.
He's a middle-aged Salarian.
So the Salarians try to figure out what to do with the Krogans in the universe. They create something known, like Erwin said, called the Genophage, and this was essentially a neutering virus for the Krogan. And this is one of the this is one of the biggest controversies in the Mass Effect universe: the neutering of the Krogan race, where a virus was made to basically drastically reduce the birth rate of the Krogan to almost zero. They can still breed very rarely, so they're not like fully going extinct, but because the Krogan are so violent, their death rate's a lot higher than their birth rate. And the Krogan, the Salarians in their quick action didn't really think about the consequences of this. And the consequences of this, that you had a warrior race that felt like they had been betrayed by their uplifters, and you don't want to do that. So throughout the game, the Krogan, while they still serve the Citadel, they have no loyalties to it at all, and they're very easily bought. And a lot of them have gone to mercenary work now, because they're just so fed up with the Citadel and what's happened.
Well, see, what's that? The Krogan, yeah.
Krogan, and so the Salarians and Krogans end up being arch nemesis because of this, because the Salarians basically neutered them as a race and made them all like children of men kind of situation.
Well, it's not like they're fully gone, but it's got to the point where they have to have war. Krogans have like territorial wars over birthing rights for females. Yeah,
so there's very few females who are immune to the virus or don't have as big of an effect from it, and those are now like one of the things that happened is like basically the Salarians accidentally turned the Krogan society into a matriarchal society, because once the female Krogans realized their power, because there are very few of them that could breed anymore, they essentially became queens of the Krogan clan masters. And so you had this shift in Krogan society from a clan master one to a clan maiden one. The clan masters still run the military of Krogan society, but now it's the breeding females that are essentially controlling.
They are the political boss, like masterminds. Whilst like say Rex, for example, when we meet a big a clan master.
Yeah,
he is just a military and protector. Of the female.
So what you end up having a situation is that you have the matriarchs ruling society, who breed with a select few clan masters. I think sometimes with one clan master or multiple clan masters. I forget if they're mono or poly. But the most of Krogan society are the neutered. I guess you call them. Most of Krogan society are incels at this point.
And they become underlings, and basically you've got to fight to the top to basically be able to mate.
It's weird because like this causes a dramatic shift in Krogan society, and one of the points you do get a chance to go to Krogan, the homeworld. I forgot Tachanka,
Yeah.
and you see the ruins of their past civilization, and you see how they actually were an artistic and creative people before their nuclear apocalypse, and so the brutal.
They worship war a little too much, though.
Yeah, the worms.
The worms,
The-
yeah.
Tachanka is in many ways a mixture of Dune and Tatooine, maybe.
Because the rite of passage for a Krogan is literally you have to defeat a Threshamore.
Yeah, you have to defeat like a Dune worm kind of thing.
A giant worm, yeah. That's what you got to defeat it, and if you fail to do that, you can never truly be a Krogan.
You can never breed.
Yeah, you're not allowed to breed.
So this in many ways has caused a mess of the Krogan society, but the Salarians are essentially like, well, we stopped the problem, right? So we did a good job, but they don't realize the shitstorm that they caused as a result. Now, when the Genophage originally started, it infuriated like obviously all of Krogan society, and so they went to war with the Citadel of Space. And at this point, it was the Turians who were discovered by either the Salarians or the Asari. And the Turians, being honor-bound warriors, were uplifted into their society, and I don't think they were uplifted. I think they were already in space. But the Turians became the new military branch of the Citadel to fight the Krogan, thus continuing the long the long tradition of replacing one problem with a new one. Although this seemed to like the balance of power between Turian and Krogan seems to have calmed down by the time the game starts, so that like the Turians and the Krogan will work together, but it's very aware that the Turians replace the Krogan in terms of Citadel hierarchy.
As in terms of security.
Yeah. So like, there's this weird relationship between the Turians and the Krogan where they are very aware of one being on the down and one being on the up, and so they have a respect for each other because neither of them really controlled their destinies. They were at the whim of the Citadel.
Well, they're both warrior cultures as well, so I guess they have a kind of a common sort of theme.
The Krogan human alliances or arrangements are neutral. Yeah, like Krogan. It's mentioned that Krogan play a lot of human sports.
Yeah.
There's a Krogan football player on Earth. They have a lot of cultural exchange. There's no bad blood between the Krogan and the humans. But you know the Krogan are basically a neutered race that are going extinct slowly, and as a result are like.
I think humans just feel quite sorry for the Krogan, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And throughout the game, you find many humans that are trying to help the Krogan race regain their ability.
So
to
you
breed.
find what you do. So there are Salarians who do have a moral compass, like Morden, for example, who is like, oh shit, my race has caused so much damage to the to the galaxy.
That's an arc that starts in the second game. It takes a while for it to, like originally Morden doesn't have any any thoughts, but by the third game he's actively working to heal the Morden and heal and like undo the sins of his race.
I think that's the human influence upon them as well, though. I really, because in the game, obviously, it's extremely human bias. If you're going to take the intersectional view of the galaxy, there is an extreme amount of human bias.
Well, quite rightly so.
So
our influence is to bring more morality to the galaxy.
Yeah,
Christian morality wins.
So I guess probably on the morality side, I will segue into my next one, which is the ones that I actually like the most, which are the Asari. Now they are number one. They are the co-founders of the council.
With the Salarians.
They are also
the oldest.
Sorry.
They're also the oldest. So when the
oldest, yeah. And
when the Protheans were doing their big empire thing, the Asari already were at where we are kind of today.
Yeah.
And the Asari, as I said, are the oldest, but also what makes them different is that they're more of a feminine race.
They're monogendered.
Monogendered, that's right. They reproduce. And they appear as female, by and large. So let's see.
So like we evolved from cells, from our cellular bodies, from a bacterial form. I would say is it what was our like in the primordial goop as they call it. The Asari evolved from parasites.
Yeah.
Which is why they're monogendered and we'll get into it. Love other races.
Yeah. Now the Asari, they're pretty much the or their home world, I should say, which is
Thessia.
Thessia. Yeah, and Thessia is the crown jewel in the galaxy. I guess is what the term is used. It is the Asari have the largest economy in the galaxy by far.
They have the city of London as a planet called Ilium.
Yeah, pretty much, and they don't have any war, crime, famine. They don't really have any sort of problems that the other societies like the Krogan and such who've suffered and everything. They don't really have that problem. The only thing which changed was when the Reapers assaulted, because then their sort of power there just they weren't successful.
Yeah. We haven't really talked about the Reapers yet, but like we'll get to that more.
Yeah, we'll get to the Reapers, and one of the things that also that the Asari are known for is their strong republic, where they can't be open to fraudulent elections or anything dodgy like that.
Yeah, supposedly.
Supposedly. Yeah.
Talk to Aria, Lecloak or whatever her name is on Omega about
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to. So with the Asari, yeah, they military-wise, they also have the famous Asari Commando. Because this is the thing, because you think, oh, maybe because they appear like feminine and everything, and that they're sort of like a bunch of pushovers, like the
Salarians.
Salarians, yeah, like a bunch of pushovers like them. Actually, no, they have their own commando unit, and they're
naturally biotic, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, we haven't touched the biotics at all, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll space magic.
They're basically cyborgs, near enough, they are one of the most well-equipped units that exists out there, they were the I believe that they were like the first. They had like the commando team, but they were the first to be selected to be chosen as specters.
That's another throwaway. It's going down so much.
Yeah.
Because it's and also they played a role in the Krogan Rebellions as well, putting them down. Yeah. The Asarian Commando, military. That's pretty much what they got.
So let me. So Asaris live extraordinarily long time.
Yeah,
so basically, all their
thousands, isn't it? Like thousands of years.
No, just about 1,000.
About 1,000 years, yeah. So because they live so long, their society is entirely based on age, more or less. If you're very old, you become a matriarch, which then makes you part of the Grand Council, essentially. Which then you then either become a Justicar, which would be sort of a more military kind of warrior monk, more or less, or you become a matriarch, which is an advisor to top Asari councilesses or whatever, or something like that. So that's what you do there, and also because they're the only military they're only good at military because they have they're so good at supporting units. So basically, if you see a kind of mixed race in Mass Effect sense, military Asari are usually always supporting biotic units to the Turians, and and so also because they live a very long time, they're very good scientists and doctors.
Yeah, it's important to remember that, like, basically because they live 1,000 years, there's only been like 50 generations since the Protheans for them. So from their perspective, the Protheans are like to us the Babylonians. They were only a few generations back in terms of like civilizational scale. And it's strong. It's revealed later on that the much of the deities of Asari civilization were actually Protheans, and that the Asari themselves are probably a product of Prothean genetic experiments because they have like basically the same skulls.
It is JD in the chat says, "Don't Krogans live longer than Asari?" I think Krogan's 800 years.
I thought they lived like 300 years.
I thought it was 800. I can't remember.
They might be
Krogan do live a while.
I think I think they're genetically immortal. Actually, they're like turtles.
Are they?
I forget. Most of the Krogan we see are veterans of the Genophage wars. So they've been around for 1,000 years. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, because I think in Andromeda we don't like to talk about that. You can't live. Yeah, here we go. Drac in Andromeda is 1,400 years old, and he's coming to the end of his life. So they do live longer than
Asari,
but
yeah,
obviously they did nuke themselves into oblivion.
There's an interesting thing because like Asari, because they live so long, oftentimes don't find great mates because everyone just seems like children to them. And so throughout the universe, you see a lot of Krogan Asari couples because they're the only races that are old enough to understand each other's maturity.
And they can actually stay together for life.
Yeah. And so like a lot of Krogan and Asari end up together as a form of like co-misery. It's weird because like there's this weird kind of like patriarchal matriarchal relationship between the two of them. Because again, like you said, the Asari are parasites. To breed, they basically use the DNA of others to randomize their own DNA, and then they basically just. This
is why you shouldn't romance Liara, even though she appears nice and all this. She only wants your DNA.
Yeah, and so it's weird. We'll touch a little bit on biotics, I guess, to explain it. Throughout the Mass Effect universe, there is a force.
Yeah, underneath there's an underneath current though that Asari may not actually be these beautiful women-looking things. They may just be tentacles.
Well, let's talk about that. Throughout the universe, throughout the game series, you can ask different people about Asari, and they oftentimes describe Asari looking like themselves, even though they all look different. Yeah. And so it's heavily hinted throughout the game that Asari might not actually be what they look like. They might be more like mimics that like appear to you as they want you to. It's not exactly clear.
Yeah, so because they evolved from a parasite, it seems that they can mentally manipulate any host, any race they so please, or because they are naturally biotic as well. It makes it easier again. So it may, and they possibly think that. Because the one common thread between all these different depictions of the Asari is that they have tentacles on their head. Yeah. They may just be a giant tentacle.
Yeah, I put a photo in the on the chat so you can see what an example of it.
Let's have a look. Okay, let's get this.
Oh, it's that bar scene in Mass Effect 2, isn't it? On yeah.
So you can see here.
Too.
If you zoom in a bit, you can see here like the human describes this Asari looking like a human face. The Turian describes the Asari looking like a Turian. The Salarian describes the Asari looking like a Salarian, and they don't understand it because it's like, but wait, we don't look like each other. So exactly. it might just be that the head tentacles are the real face and whatever you're looking at.
It'd be cool on film as a tentacle beast. I don't think it works quite like that.
The Asari were designed by someone who watched too many anime.
Well, because the influences from Mass Effect there's a load of them. So there's a big Lovecraftian undertone to a lot of the more horror-y aspects of the game.
Yeah.
So like when we talk about Leviathan and the Reapers, that's very Lovecraftian. Yeah. And then there's a lot of this, as we've already hinted at, there's a lot of Starship Troopers elements to it. There's a huge Star Trek influence. Very, I guess biotics to some extent is Star Wars. And there's Hitchhiker's Guide in there as well.
Yeah. So anyway, to not get too distracted, the Asari are aware that something happened near the start of their civilization that ended the Protheans. This is a secret that they keep from other civilizations. In the third game, you discover that the Asari are kind of aware that something's wrong in the galaxy, like their gods all died basically early in their existence, and so the Asari from the start are trying to figure out what happened to the Protheans. Why are they finding all the ruins of these people that they used to worship? And as a result, the Asari also have the most advanced technology, but they keep it to themselves. That they're not imperialists. They're very isolationist. Also, let's talk about the government because that's the point of the stream. The Asari are basically they're basically city states. They don't have a unified government. They have a city states on their homeworld that oftentimes exchange youth to try and get experiences from each other. And the Asari are basically like their homeworld is more of a commonwealth of city states, and then their colonies act like individual city states that are extensions. And a lot of the colonies in the Asari controlled space are they call back to a mother city on the homeworld, similar to a Greek style. The Asari are primarily influenced by Greek culture. That's the main artistic inspiration for them.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit too much. Like their main god is Athene or something. So it's not exactly clear. It's not clear.
It's a goddess, obviously.
Yeah. It's not clear if the humans are just projecting their own gods onto it, or if it's just lazy writing.
Well, if you think about the translation, maybe because the translator, which is in itself an AI of sorts, might be kind of a. I guess this is me filling in the gap here. I'm being a terrible fanboy. Filling in the plot hole.
We drink a lot of cope reading the lore sometimes.
And maybe the translator is kind of is basically, I don't know, manipulating, kind of fitting in an alien so humans can comprehend it.
So think of Asari civilization as essentially all their star systems are akin to the Mediterranean before the Romans. You have the Greek mother cities, and then the colonies that held to each city, etc., etc.
Just be careful with them. I find Asari dodgy. I find them
they are very dodgy.
Not right.
Because they're so long lived, they tend not to make emotional connections to the shorter lived species because they know they're gonna feel bad if they die.
So a bunch of space autists.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to know that Asari aren't.
I love to say space something this episode. That's all I'm doing.
The Asari aren't lacking emotions. They just hold their emotions to people that they can trust, and they're aware that if they let their emotions get attached to someone, it's likely they're going to feel bad because they're going to outlive them.
And on the topic of emotions,
you want to do the alcohol.
And basically people who just ignore other people, I'm gonna have to go for the next best race, which is I believe are actually the secret masters of the universe, and they're just biding their time. Boom.
Oh, you mean the keepers?
Yes. What's up with them?
Okay, all right. The keepers might have been genetically. They might be not alive. They might just be kind of biologically engineered kind of cyborgs to keep up the maintenance of the Citadel, which were engineered by one of the races.
Yeah.
After the Citadel was built by Leviathan.
We have not explained the backstory lore. We've been describing all the races, so I guess now we can get into the backstory. So all these races exist within the dead infrastructure of a dead race called the Protheans, and it was thought that the Protheans built a lot of the infrastructure, but in fact it's a lot older. Now the Citadel is the oldest mass relay in the solar system. Oh, and it's not really a mass relay. It is a mass relay,
it's
but
a space station. It's a giant space station.
The Citadel is a space station the size of a large asteroid that has millions of people on it, and it's the nexus point of all of the mass relays as an infrastructure. So think of the Citadel as a kind of HQ for all the mass reapers. And
the Space UN headquarters.
Yeah, there it is.
Space New York.
There's a good concept art piece if you go down enough AI.
I gotta
Oh,
stop saying that stuff.
Type in Citadel concept art. There's a beautiful.
Oh yeah, by the end of the game as well, the coolest thing about it is that the Citadel becomes tied to London.
Yeah. Yes, the ultimate
So
human plan.
the great plan for British dominance of the galaxy has come to fruition.
We'll get to that later on. But like a good, I found it. This is a good artistic rendition.
wow.
We have
That's a good artistic rendition of the Citadel.
we
I'll
become
put it in the chat.
victorious. Just
Yes, the
remember that.
British will always win. The lesson of Mass Effect is the British always win. But anyway, so the Citadel is what the Asari find, and they set up their little like galactic government on the Citadel. This is like the artistic piece, and essentially when they found the Citadel, it was just this like ring with sheets coming out, and so the Asari basically just built cities onto the sheets. the cities are not like from the Protheans. That was built by humans, built by Asari. But the Citadel became this kind of like space HQ for the like the government, to the extent that the government is named after it, the Citadel. Like the Citadel is both the government and the object that the government sits on.
And they sit on the Presidium, which is the big ring at the bottom.
Well, you see the little tower in the center of the ring? That's the Presidium. You can zoom on.
If I'll just that's it there with where my mouse is, so you can see it like sticking out.
Yeah, so that's that little tower on the ring is the center of galactic government. Anyway, the Citadel is thought to be built by the Protheans, but in fact, it's the Protheans also found it merely, and many other species have found it before them. Essentially, the entire emphasis of the Mass Effect universe is the fact that these mysterious infrastructures are built by someone, and there appears to be a pattern of galactic destruction every 50,000 years. And it turns out it's the Reapers. The Reaper, the Reapers are this biosynthetic entity that essentially the way they reproduce is they consume an entire race, reduce the race's genetic like the entire genetic library of a race down to some kind of material, and then they build one of their own in the image of the race they ate. And so every Reaper individually is a consumed race that the Reapers have conquered. It's a really like Cthulhian style. There are no two Reapers are the same species, quote unquote. Each Reaper as an individual is the genetic mass.
But it's a hive mind.
Yeah, it's a hive mind of
in the first Mass Effect, like the zombie humans.
The husk.
Yeah.
The husk. That's right.
So like,
yes.
I guess like in terms of government, if we're gonna talk about the Reapers, are a hive mind of hive minds.
So the Reapers themselves were created by this race called the Leviathan. The Leviathan, which look like the Reapers, which are these giant prawns, which are giant prawns, and they lived, oddly enough, the Leviathan are aquatic. Which is quite strange. So they're not actually land-based. On the
Leviathan homeworld, there was another intelligent race which the Leviathans manipulated to get to space for them. Yeah. So it was like a dual race, basically. And after that, the Leviathans started doing that to other races. They were originally very like neutral. They weren't like killing the races. They were just like inspiring them to go to space. But then when they built an AI in their image, the AI turned violent and killed everything. and essentially the theme is that the Reapers are trying to prevent they're basically trying to prevent stagnation.
Yeah, what they're trying to do, they're trying to prevent a war. This is one of the weaker parts of the lore because we're getting towards the end of Mass Effect 3, you know. Mm. It's the purpose of the Reapers turns out to be that they are there to prevent war between biotics and synthetics, and because they think that AI will eventually rebel against the masters as they do always. And there's a big contradiction in that because you literally solve a war between the Geth and the Quarians. Yeah. So it's a very terrible ending. The original idea.
We'll skip that.
Yeah, but so basically, the original idea of the Reapers were. I don't want to go into the Dark Matter ending. That's a big hole again. But the actual purpose of the Reapers is quite difficult to even nail down now because they ruined it.
Yeah, the original concept notes says that the Reapers were essentially designed to investigate long-term history, how to stop the end of the universe, the cold death.
Yeah.
And so the Reapers were originally a hive mind trying to figure out how to prevent the universe expanding, and everyone dying. And they knew that this was going to be a long-term thing, so they would essentially harvest races every couple of thousands of years to add to its intelligence to try and figure this out. And it was basically a way to immortalize every race that could possibly come about and put them to the task of trying to save the universe, which is a far more interesting concept than AIs and biotic. Freaking dumb Mass Effect 3 ruined it. But this original concept is far more fascinating.
See, this is why I'm desperate for. They're doing this legendary edition now, right?
Yeah,
They're not rewriting any of it, sadly.
they should.
They should. I said if EA wanted money, they do a Mass Effect Redux. They do the entire trilogy Reduxed, like they did for Metro.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, you know, the gameplay is there. Just be nice. Don't overdo it.
On the rumor that in the next gen there's going to be I guess it's been described like a revamp of the series, but it's going to be set before. It's going to be set. I think
they're doing First Contact, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's going to be in the same universe with Shepard, as in Shepard's going to be like around, milling around. That sort of.
They can solve the problem. But they can solve the problem they writ themselves into by simply rewriting it because they have the chance to, or destroy the canon ending.
Yeah. The thing is, like, you could easily write off the entire third game as a delusion of Shepard and just ignore the third ending.
Oh, the indoctrination theory.
Yeah, just embrace the indoctrination theory and continue the game. Anyway, to get back on topic.
Or just like he was on the Citadel one day. He got heavily drunk. He like picked up a few like.
Shepard actually died in number 2, Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Keepers, and that he was just locked in the brig, and the whole Mass Effect 3 was a drunken memory.
It's just annoying because like there's a lot of opportunities here to recover the lore, but they don't want to take them for some reason. It's stupid.
If you ever become a multi-millionaire, either one of us, we need to buy the license.
Absolutely, I would buy that license so fast. Yeah. Anyway, though, to continue on with this, so we've done the humans, the Asari, the Krogan, the Salarians, and the Turians.
We haven't done the Quarians.
The Quarians. You guys can take that away.
All right, so the Quarians, right? These are nomads. They are they are currently nomadic because what they did. So the Quarians live right on the edge of the galaxy, in the far rim, in the Perseus Veil, which is literally on the edge, like far edge of the galaxy. And they've always been quite isolationist, and they lived on a planet called Rannoch, and they are similar to the Turians in the fact that they have the reverse biology to the humans again. But they lived on a planet where the biology became so so efficient, they didn't actually have many diseases anymore or anything like that. So what happened is through their immune systems basically no longer became defunct. They didn't need an immune system anymore on that planet, and so later on when they got exiled from that planet eventually due to their own of a problem of their own making, to even live off that planet, they have to live permanently within suits to stay alive. Anyway, so this is why they have the appearance they do have. But back to their planet, they created a servant robotic race called the Geth, and the Geth were AI. It was an AI developed to help to serve the Quarians in terms of farming, etc., and stuff like that. And what happened is eventually a faction within the Quarians were afraid. Basically, they were afraid that the Geth would rebel against them, and they were afraid, etc. Even though the Geth weren't doing that, they only wanted they in their program they were there to serve their makers, but they also had the highest level of their program was to survive, and thus came a big, massive misunderstanding where the Quarians started trying to kill all the Geth, and the Geth picked up arms to try and defend themselves. And eventually they became unshackled, which an unshackled AI is basically someone who an AI that can think for itself. And so the Geth then kicked the Quarians off their homeworld, and were then sadly manipulated by a load of other things, such as and the Reapers, to do their bidding, and later on, and so they got a really bad reputation on the galactic scene.
Yeah. So
and
I mean, is it worth talking about like the migrant fleet? Because that was like, was it 15 or 17 million of the Quarians, basically, gypsying it up in the galaxy.
Yeah, so the migrant fleet, right? It's basically, yeah, they're like gypsies, like travelers. And what happens is when you're so the migrant fleet, they have, I think, each political so it's heavily tied in. So your political rank is essentially your rank, your kind of rank on your ship. So if you're an admiral, there's a Grand Council of Admirals, who are the main political force within the Quarians. And also, your last name is the ship that you most closely identify with, isn't it? So Tali was Tali Zora of Vasna. So Vas being from the Mariah, and she eventually becomes Tali Zora Vas Normandy, because she becomes more closely associated with the Normandy. So that's some of their naming scheme. But the actual politics of it, yeah, they have the Grand Admirals, and they have advisors of the admirals, and then eventually they'll send you off on pilgrimage, which is basically you got to go out into the galaxy and find something useful for the fleet, and then come back. That's the rite of passage. Yes. I think that's everything about the really what you need to know about the Quarians.
Yeah, as a result, the Quarian fleet is technically speaking the strongest, biggest, and most advanced, but it's also their entire civilization. So if they lose,
they lose, it's gone.
Yeah, every ship that they lose is like a loss of a city of their civilization. All the culture, all the art, it's all gone.
Yeah. So so in number 3, you resolve this conflict between them and the Geth, and because you resolve the great misunderstanding with good buddy Legion, who is basically the Geth within their programming, because most of the Geth happens in cyber within their kind of matrix, because they across the planet Rannoch they have all these server data banks, don't they, where all the Geth actually all their mental faculties actually reside, and there's actually a civil war going on within them, and you can't actually see it. And so there's heretics, and then there's heretics who want to destroy the creators and have been corrupted by the Reapers and the Collectors.
Yeah.
And the Collectors being the remnant of the Prothean who have been taken over by the Reapers. And the actual Geth who kind of want to reconcile with the Quarians. And so eventually you destroy the heretics with Legion's help, and you reconcile with the Quarians.
Yeah, so just to speak about that a little bit more, at some point in time in the game, it is discovered that the Protheans didn't totally go extinct. There were some leftover Protheans from the Reaper invasion that the Reapers decided that, the thing about the Reapers is that every time they harvest, they always leave something behind to like monitor and intervene if they need to. Because the Reaper's goal is to have the most number of intelligent species to harvest, basically. So they sometimes leave behind agents to try and motivate the emphasis of technology and stuff like that. The Reapers essentially from the shadows trade their own technology to make the civilizations dependent upon them and develop there's a thesis argument amongst the Reapers that like while they do want to harvest as many intelligent factions as they can, they want to keep them within something that they can control. So they will purposefully give technology to races they look promising upon through their agencies of like leftover species they've harvested before, in order to like nudge them in directions that like make them develop in ways they want. And so like the Reapers are the ultimate parasite. Instead of researching technology on their own, they just drop a hint somewhere and let someone else figure it out. They outsource all of their technological growth.
Well, they're the shadow hand in the universe.
Yeah, and so the Collectors are basically what's left of the unharvested Protheans that are like fully under the control of the Reapers. That they don't really have wills of their own. They've been like hive mind into the will of the Reapers, and the Collectors help the I forgot their name already. That quarantine. Quarians. They help the Quarians and the Geth kind of develop a bit because they're very curious about this war between the AI and the biology, and they think there's a lot of opportunity because from the Reaper perspective, the Geth represent a uncontrolled force. They're developing technology in ways that aren't bound by Reaper technology, and so the Reapers kind of want to intervene to like keep them within something that they can control. Throughout the game, you start noticing the ways that the Quarians and Geth are both like kind of breaking free of Reaper technology because the Quarians can't rely on a lot of stuff. They have to make their own. They're very inventive, and the Geth don't want to rely on things. The Geth are aware of the Reapers because their AI doesn't care about myths. They just look at facts, and so they're already.
So basically the Geth? Yeah, they don't have any emotion, so they're just literal in every sense.
Yeah,
and they go, don't you guys just it's like wouldn't they like the pilot for the Normandy rocks up alongside a Geth ship, and he's like, won't they just see us through a window? And then one of the Geth just go, Legion, your Geth buddy, turns to and just goes, we don't have need for windows.
Yeah. So they have many weaknesses because of that. Because like obviously, if you can make yourself invisible to their sensors, you are effectively invisible. The Geth are very, the thing about the Geth also I forgot to mention, the Geth are like a hive mind of AIs, and so
Cyberbanks.
Yeah, each soldier you meet isn't a single Geth. It's several Geth, and depending on how many Geth programs that the platform can fit, they'll rank in intelligence. And so like you'll have like these big giant bulwarks that are full of Geth programs that are highly intelligent, and then these little tiny soldiers that are like kind of dumb and get shot at very easily.
And then you have the Geth Prime then, which is basically a mobile command unit.
Yeah, and a command unit, not just a commando. And the thing about the Geth is they can't die. Like when they're kind of like think of Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. When you kill them, they just upload the Geth programs up. It's very rare for a Geth program to be deleted permanently, because again they can just send the program through space.
The only fully independent, like the most fully independent Geth you meet is Legion. He is kind of a mobile platform in himself.
Yeah, so it's later discovered. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's later discovered that there are factions within the Geth who are noticing the Reapers influencing their program.
So they separate themselves, don't they?
Yeah, and it's like significant amounts of the Geth kind of quarantine themselves off from the rest of the hive mind because they don't like what the Reapers are doing to their programming. And these are Geth that are more willing to work with you, even sometimes willing to work with the Quarians, their former enemies. And the Quarians hate the Geth, but the Geth kind of just like, look, what do you want? We defended ourselves. They have no hard feelings because they're robots, but they're very blatant. You try to kill us, so we defend ourselves. One of the curious things you notice when you go to the Quarian homeworld in the third game is the fact that the Quarians have the Geth have preserved the Quarian homeworld. They haven't like ruined it. It's a natural beauty, and so the Geth are frank. Like, look, if you want to come back, we're perfectly willing. Just don't kill us.
Just don't kill us. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like in many ways, the Geth are also because of their vast scales of intelligence. They have moments of like almost religion, where like they kind of preserve these relics of the Quarians to somewhat of a religious fervor. And when you ask them why
they still like kind of venerate their creator. They say they know, like they treat the Quarians like a god who's angered and trying to kill them, and all they're doing is trying to survive.
Yeah, and like from time to time you'll ask the Geth, why are you preserving this, or why do you hold this in value? And the Geth don't really have an answer. They're just like, because the makers made it.
Because what they do upon death, they transmit the songs of their creators.
Oh, really? Like that. Yeah.
Isn't it? Didn't it when a Quarian died and the Geth transmitted a song of death, of like a traditional Quarian song of death?
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Kind of honor him.
Yeah, I think so. So it's discovered that throughout the game, you kind of discover that the Geth are a lot more than just simple AI, and the Quarians were kind of dismissive and didn't realize this. And so if you play off that as a game, one of the plot lines you can follow, because again, Mass Effect is a sort of multiple storylines game that you can play. You can show this to the Quarians, and they'll start to like realize that the Geth are more than machines, and they'll make peace by the end of the game. It's hard to get that ending though.
So yeah, those are the all the major races, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we got the Volus live underground. If we just get a quick run through, the Alcor are
Boring.
completely literal, have no emotion, space cows.
Oh, that's
and then there's the
Hanar.
Hana.
Yeah, now I'm just going to, because this will probably be the last one, and then we'll get out of here. So the Hanar, basically very heavily resemblant of like Earth's jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. They are very overly polite. When you come across them, because I think you come across them in the Citadel, they're really, really polite, and they are very.
Other than Blasto. Blasto's not polite.
Sorry.
Blast.
So in one of the funniest things, right, is that because in Mass Effect Universe, obviously there's still media for the lowest common denominator, and in it for like Vulture and Batarians, and one of the biggest action star in the galaxy is a Hana called Blasto.
Oh yeah.
And he has a Vulture companion, and basically they completely strip and like Commander Shepard turns up on one of their missions, and Blasto is rude as fuck.
Yeah.
He's a Hana Spectre.
Yeah.
Is he an actual Spectre, or is he?
No, he's
made up,
an action star. Yeah.
Yeah. And they actually do have. I mean, you forget about them, but they actually do have. Obviously, they're not going to be like frontline soldiers fighting in battles, but they do have they have a small navy. They have
the Hana are also a very ancient species again, right? Because the Hana are virtually immortal because they have the same thing as a jellyfish, where they can just re-thing themselves constantly, I believe. I think they have a similar biology to them. It's Silicon based, I can't remember, but they worship the Protheans, don't they? They call them the creator.
Yeah, they call the
progenitors. I can't remember. Oh,
yeah,
what was it?
They call the Protheans the
Enkindlers.
Enkindlers, that's it. Here it is.
The Enkindlers, yeah.
Yeah, so they worship them, and I think one of the first side quests when I first saw them was basically it was on the Citadel, and I think it was Mass Effect. I think it was the first one.
First one. It's about religious freedom.
Yes, and basically, and you had like the security guard, saying, "Listen, you got to sort this one out because he's being a nuisance and everything." You go over, and then when you first like a conversation with them as a player, and they're just these really polite, really polite like street evangelicals, and I think it was either you could either like tell them to get out of here.
Go away, you big stupid jellyfish.
Jellyfish, or you could go return to the security officers, just go, well, he's not causing any harm, just leave him. Yeah. I mean, that's why I went, because I just thought to myself, I mean, literally, what harm? One
of my biggest fears if they did the Redux is they're going to fit a ton of basically our contemporary politics into it, and they're going to have a lot more of a racial, like, look, you're being racist to this species. Whilst in the actual game, they treated it quite maturely, and they did it out racism probably actually work in the galaxy. Like, you're not going to be like openly racist towards someone unless if you're like a commander.
Yeah,
because you're an idiot.
Them. I mean, Andromeda. I played Andromeda, and it's all right. It doesn't have. You would think there'd be a lot of like wokey stuff in there. Not really. Not really, but
they basically neuter the Krogan even further.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Krogan are shit in that game.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, dude, it's bad.
Basically, I mean, the upshot of the story. If people want to play it, I won't spoil it. But what happens was that you have all these like I guess you could say galactic travel ships, and what you have is like the Krogan ship, and then you have the human
different
ship.
arcs.
Yeah, the arcs. That's it. Thank you. And what happens is you wake up and you're like the son or daughter, depending on your character choice, of a Pathfinder who is like the head scout.
Who's a better character than you are in every way.
Yeah, pretty much. And what happens is you wake up and then you find out that several arcs because all the people are like in hibernation. So about hundreds of years have passed, like 400 years, I think.
647 or something like that.
Something like that, or maybe 47. Yeah. And what happens is once you get to the Andromeda galaxy, you pretty much crash into like some dark energy field, and then you find out.
Scourge.
Yeah, and then you find out all the other arcs are missing, and then you have to go out and find, and then you find the
Nexus,
sort of
which is
Nexus, which is the beta Citadel.
I hear the best thing is the Made in China version of the Citadel.
Pretty much. Well, the trouble is, like, when you get there, the power isn't even working.
Yeah, exactly. The Made in China version of the Citadel.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the CCP experience.
It becomes essentially a dictatorship as well because there's no council. It's just one guy who's a Salarian at the head of it.
This is like the messed up thing. They all die, and this one Salarian is basically, you got like this weird power dynamic. We got this one like administrator, human administrator, who's like, well, no, I'm now in command, and you got this one Salarian that goes, well, let's be honest, I'm the one that's keeping this operation afloat. And you got Krogan, who's sitting there thinking, I can just take you both out, but I'm not going to.
See, there is it's really dumb. Number one, Andromeda is really stupid. It is literally the game equivalent of running away from your writing problem. Because it is honestly it is. It's like, oh, we can't do our galaxy anymore because we tried to make synthesis the canon ending, which is stupid in every way.
Yeah.
So it's game ending, and we gotta run away from our problems. So we'll just go to this cluster on the edge of the Andromeda galaxy and pretend like nothing ever happened, and then have awful voice acting. Make the races look stupid.
I did like that they didn't show what the canon ending was in the original game. It's just kind of announced that the war with the Reapers began, and then Andromeda kind of leaves it ambiguous because
there's one ending, and that is destroy. End of.
Yeah. There might be no endings because the entire game was a delusion.
Oh, you can shoot the Star Child and walk away.
That's good because it's meant to be like a new trilogy. The rumor mill for the next gen. And I think the idea of new trilogy is basically they sort of do what they're doing with Star Wars at the moment with the Mandalorian, with the new trilogy, and what they're doing is basically damage control. Basically just patching up all
do Mass Effect 3 Redux for God's sake.
Just redo the entire plot, resurrect the dark energy question.
No, I didn't. That ending was crap as well.
I love the dark energy.
Yeah, but do you know what the choice was at the end?
What?
Wipe out humanity or wipe out every other race.
No, I didn't hear that. I just heard there was a dark energy.
That was meant to be the choice because you have to bring balance to the galaxy again.
No, I don't care for that ending either. I just like the dark energy plot line. If they just had bad ending, then screw them. Just keep the plot and make something better as an ending.
You need to create a new motivation for the Reapers, and the motivation for the Reapers should simply be a kind of, I don't know, an AI over. Basically, it's an AI paradox, a computing paradox, which means that they feel like they should wipe out all biology in the universe.
That's been done. It's something more original.
I do think one thing I always thought, which would be, instead of like, if I was going to set a game for a future Mass Effect, I'd be looking actually not to do, because obviously like the Geth and everything exterior and the Reapers exterior threats are always fun and everything to do. But I'm actually looking like internal threats. So, like as an example, maybe there is the Citadel is like overthrown, and it becomes a military junta of like say,
They still have like the Blue Suns out there. You've still got Omega out there. You've still got the Cerberus probably lurking about. You've still got plenty of little things you can do. You still got the Rachni. Still got. Batarians can still kick up a fuss. You can have a galactic civil war. Maybe
a galactic civil war, and then what you'd have is like the Earth or the Alliance, the Alliance are like neutral. They won't get involved. I mean, something like that would be quite interesting because then
you just won't have a universe-ending threat anymore.
Well, because yeah, I mean, I just thought maybe, or something like, or maybe like you get to there's a civil war, you get to choose a side, you fight it, and then there's that point where you can become the Galactic Emperor.
In Mass Effect, come on here.
Yeah. No, hear me out. You decimate, like, just say like the humans and the Turians and the Asari or something like that to go into an alliance together against the Krogans and the Gypsy lot or something. I don't know. Just run with the idea, and you just have this huge civil war scenario, and both sides are heavily weakened, and then like you and the alliance or something could do like multiple options, either a reconstruction period like they did with the Confederate States after Civil War, like reconstruction period for the Krogans and such, or option 3, you walk into the Parliament, the chamber, and you declare for peace and security in our new society. We are reforming the alliance into the first galactic empire.
They go to the Acteria Station, which is the capital of the Alliance, is of the off-world, which is where the Parliament is. But I like what I'd do. Like, there's a good story. There's a story already out there. BioWare's already made, and it's called. It's in Star Wars: The Old Republic, where they bring in the other empire. Where they, what's the one with the?
Yeah, is it the Infinite? I know the Old Republic one. It's the it's those two brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's two brothers, and there's they're grey Jedi, aren't they? God. And it basically the Empire, the Sith and Jedi's need to unite together to destroy them.
Yeah, that is some deep EU lore right there that they brought in there. But I don't know if it's canon. I don't know if it's still canon.
Old Republic is still sits in its own little weird world bubble of is it canon, is it not?
I heard I know that Dave Filoni is looking to create like an Old Republic series, but I know that like Kathleen Kennedy struck him down.
Anyway, yeah. Outside of Star Wars, back to Mass Effect.
Yeah, back to Mass Effect. Sorry.
I would say that you'd have a kind of sort of empire come up in the Terminus systems. I think if you're going to have any big evil come now, it'll have to be in the Terminus systems. Because inside Council and Alliance space, I guess you could have like you want a rogue. You could try doing a rogue faction, but I just don't think it'd work. I think though. You still got plenty of the work with the Protheans. You still got like you can still have remnants of you can't really do Reapers if you click destroy. Ah, for fuck's sake. Collectors are gone.
Like early. I mean, one thing that I did like with the Andromeda thing was it was the idea of exploring and settling new worlds. Now, while you can say like the story and like the backstory to it, it's all a bit bored. The concept, which I think where originally I would say would be a good idea, was when you get to explore and colonize new worlds, and I guess if they expanded on that, and maybe like in next gen, if they're doing like a prequel sort of thing, they could that would be quite good.
Yeah, I think you'd have to just do like basically have a Cerberus rise and become a real threat. But the problem is then you're gonna have to create something similar to Cerberus, because Cerberus, do you know what they are? Like, cause that's a fact.
We didn't talk about Cerberus.
So Cerberus is basically if the CIA went rogue on a space level.
So So we should have mentioned this in the government, but obviously we mentioned that Earth doesn't have a unified government. It has like nation states, and then the Alliance is the face of Earth on the galactic scale. There's also breakaway factions of that. There are a few corporations that are outside the scope of the Alliance as well, but the Cerberus is probably the most important one that started as a intelligence agency of the Alliance, or it was the Alliance, or was it Earth? I don't know.
It's of Earth.
So like they weren't really part of the Alliance. I think they were like some kind of like agency. They probably were MI6 to tell you the truth. So at some point they broke away from whatever government they come from,
because they didn't like how we're being too friendly with other races.
Yeah, a lot of the people in the Shang-Chi war, the First Contact war, were like intelligence officers as well. Because obviously, when you're starting to use alien technology, you're probably gonna run into aliens eventually. So there are a lot of intelligence officers at Shang-Chi, at the first colony, and like everywhere, and they were like just there to like observe. And so after the First Contact War, a lot of these intelligence officers went back to Earth with like a lot of reports, and they were very worried about like, yeah, the humans won this one, but it's only because of the timing. We were kind of fucked in the long run. And so they advocated for a bit of a more isolationist imperial policy rather than a friendly policy, just out of fear. It's also it's also mentioned that, what was it? Oh, I forgot already. Yeah, so the intelligence agency is also sort of aware of the Reapers in some way, to the extent at least that when the second game rolls around, they're the only ones that are willing to accept the claims of Shepard that there's something like spooky on the horizon.
Yes.
And so when they're ignored, they kind of break away from Earth and form their own collective.
Underneath the banner of this mysterious benefactor known as the Elusive Man.
Yes, the Elusive Man is the main financial backer. Turns out he was a veteran of the First Contact War. Possibly, yeah, he fought in the First Contact War. He was also one of the first humans to learn about the Reapers. And his eyes turned out like he has modified eyes in the game, and it turns out to be Reaper technology. That he got actually on Shang-Chi from somewhere, I forget. But so the intelligence agency starts off breaking away from humanity, forming its own like kind of breakaway civilization of humanity for extremists. And so you can imagine like a lot of the humans who are racist and afraid of the aliens kind of join them. Yeah, it's an alt-right organization. Think of it as an alternative cathedral.
And the Elusive Man is Richard Spencer.
Yes, the Elusive Man might as well be Richard Spencer, to the extent that he's crazy. Although in the second game they loosen the ranks a little bit, and so they become willing to work with aliens, but still it's considered a human agency. Although by the third game you discover that it's been corrupted by the Reapers. Like the Reapers use their liberal use of technology to kind of infiltrate and take it over. And so they exist as a kind of like alternative to the Alliance, and they have their own navy, they have their own planets, their own research facilities, their own government. It's a small navy. It's more of a private navy for defending like various installations. But yeah, they're also heavily reliant on like robotics because of their lack of manpower. So like in the second game opening, you're facing off against their robot army. They're very interested in the Geth for developing their own ranks. They also get their hold on chunks of Reaper husks, like dead Reapers that were defeated in the past, to like build their own Reaper. But by the end of the second game, it's discovered that they're basically trying to hijack a Reaper construction facility that's trying to start a human Reaper, and they take it over basically.
Yeah. So what happens is in the third game you discover that they basically they've modified their own like kind of subhuman race of soldiers.
Yeah.
Which are they just basically using as drones to fight Shepard.
Yeah.
And they're getting really deep into human genetic modification and human, which is a bit odd considering their motivations, but I guess it works just about.
Yeah.
Project Overlord is pretty wild.
Yeah, that was weird.
To create a human hive intelligence using an autistic human.
Yeah,
that was really wild.
They were trying to mimic the Geth basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up creating a rather sad story. I never played Overlord actually.
Overlord is probably one of the more disturbing stories of all the Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this is something that could happen. Say, China could do something like that. It's quite wild.
Yeah.
So I think that's the Mass Effect universe. I would love to come back and discuss this sometime, guys. To do Wake Ago.
I was going to say like another video we could do is maybe like talk about the Reapers and the sort of more out there races, I guess you could say, the ones that are like the that we haven't really covered because we still got like the Reapers, maybe a few like the ancient ones that have gone as well, and then maybe we can talk about the Andromeda races, like the Ket and the other
I don't want to touch on Andromeda. Sorry, it's too upsetting.
I'm
Because
sorry, it's
they
canon.
are basic. It's space Nepal though, isn't it? That's what the space Buddhists. That's what the Angara are.
I will say this: the Mass Effect universe is my favorite because it's the technology in it is practical and possibly realistic. We currently are aware that you can make warp bubbles to travel in a similar like Mass Effect field, which we never mentioned what exactly Mass Effect is.
Element 0.
Yeah. So within the universe, there's the Higgs field that we've actually. Here's the funny thing: Mass Effect as a scientific experiment was proven true from science after the fact that it was written, which is really fascinating.
True
So, like,
accomplishment, genius.
when Mass Effect was written, there was the Mass Effect field, which was like an idea that like mass itself could be a field that has like a probability that you can manipulate the mass of things by manipulating the field, and the element 0 was the element that encoded this field as like a propagation something like that. And it turned out this is true. Scientific experiments discovered the Higgs field and the Higgs boson. So you can imagine Mass Effect as a concept is basically using the Higgs boson field.
Basically, you end up with space highways using mass relays.
And so it is true that you could have the Mass Effect universe in reality. And as a matter of fact, we're just starting to, and from a scientific perspective, making a Mass Effect bubble in real life would require something of the mass of Jupiter. But this is assuming a smooth manipulation. If you actually did a series of resonating fields, you could do it something far smaller with like a small star. That you could.
How are you an architect, not a scientist?
On Netflix, which is called Aliens, which actually sort of taps into that because it goes like from alien animals then to alien sentient beings, and actually how you would have I guess like a network of, if they can travel between systems, then yes, it would be like the Mass Effect sort of relay sort of thing. You're traversing certain routes.
The problem is we'd have to get to the systems to put a point down, wouldn't we?
No, that's cool. We could build a Mass Effect relay using like reflective rays of the sun, or actually more accurately, magnetic threads of the sun's magnetic field. Because when you knot a magnetic field, the energy released is exponential. It's ridiculously powerful. And so all you'd have to do is equip yourself with a slowdown speed to the system. You'd only need fuel to slow down, not to accelerate. You could use the sun's magnetic fields to fling you to like a fractional speed of light, and then you would slow yourself down when you got there.
See, one of the weirdest things about Mass Effect, which is the least realistic thing, is that how they have the galactic internet.
No, if quantum mechanics works, that's true. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really fascinating what you can do with some of the technology.
The extranet on it, is that what they call it?
I believe that we might live to see a mass relay built in our solar system. It might take till the end of my life, but it would not be expensive. All you need to do.
The way Mass Effect.
I remember. I think it was like the observation post in what is it? Is it like Peru or one of the Latin American countries, Chile, sorry.
Yeah.
And they could see a very far distant star, and they believed that it was going that you had asteroids and everything, but there was actually a thought at the time by one crazy scientist, alien guy that was existing at the facility, was that they actually thought there was a ring being built, or there was a ring around the star.
There's a Dyson sphere thing going on.
This could still be true. It will take several years of observation to prove it. It could be true though.
Well, there's another society building a ring around this star to harness the power.
Well, yeah, and you would do that you'd want to do that if you want to use the star's power to get to another planet.
It takes a lot of resources.
Yeah, but like you can do it. That's the thing. Like
you need like infinitesimal amount of metal.
No, you wouldn't need. You could do it very thin and reflect the sun's rays, or control its magnetic fields to basically shoot yourself to another star. This could accelerate you to something in the range of like a fraction of the speed of light. Like I think 25% maybe. So it would take like 16 years to get to the nearest star.
That's doable.
Yeah, it is doable. It would take a while, but like you could do it. And if you built it powerful enough, you could easily get like, well, getting to the speed of light's nearly impossible, but you could get pretty close to it. And so if you
that's the only upsetting thing about reality is
yeah,
you can't go the speed of light.
if you could build a ring that would merely catch the magnetic threads of the star's magnetic field and manipulate them to such a way that it would like bounce, like you basically make a massive negatively charged plane, like ridiculously charged. It would shoot your spacecraft by repulsion at like fraction of the speed of light, and you would do this by building a giant ring that would like catch the magnetic field lines and begin to manipulate them, similar to how you might do in a torsion magnetic field experiment on Earth.
Yeah.
So
And,
like, I was going to say something, I've forgotten it now. Fuck. Oh yeah. Do you know in the Mass Effect universe, right? The way the timescale is, what is it? It's 22. Is it 2150, something like that?
Yeah.
So literally, it's quite likely that a lot of the characters in the game would be like our grandchildren.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I found weird. Like I remember when I was younger, right? It was one of the weirder things. Well, I come up with weird ideas, but like I was like, oh, you know, it's just like, oh, this character is my grandchild. I was about to realize I was going to dox myself. I was like, well, hold on now, this guy. I stopped myself, but yeah, I was like, it's quite weird. It's really weird because you think on that time scale is that. Because humans now in Mass Effect world live 140 odd on average.
Not on average, but you can reach that old.
Yeah, in Mass Effect world. Because they've cured cancer, they've cured all the rest of it. They've done all the major stuff.
Humans have not yet invented a way to like rapidly produce food, so they still have to farm, but they have reached pretty long lives now.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So,
and I was going to say, I think that's a good time to wrap this all up.
Yeah.
I would say what I'll do is, I think, Cringewalker, you just sent me on the private chat was it magnetic acceleration, which we'll just put up here so people can see what the hell we were talking about.
So you would basically put a ring of stations that would like create these like magnetic torsions.
Space hyperloop.
Yeah, and so you'd have a ring of stations around a star that would each like make these like magnetic bubble donut shapes, and every time your ship passed through one, it would accelerate in like a ring, kind of like an acceleration ring, and you would keep going through them like threading a needle, like you see with those thread lines going perpendicular, until you get to like something of a fractional speed of light, and then you just shoot yourself out like basically, you make a giant acceleration ring and then just shoot your craft out when you get the speed you want. It's hard to build. The thing is, it wouldn't be hard to build. I keep saying it's hard to build. It wouldn't be hard to build. You would essentially have just a very well aligned. You wouldn't even need to build a ring. The ring just would make it easier. But you could do it with like independent stations that were aligned to each other in a ring shape. Of course, they would need to be able to like hold the sun's magnetic energy, which would be insanely difficult because that shit reaches like 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So you'll need some way to do that without touching it. But that is possible with the correct technology. So this is one of the reasons why you'd build a ring of stations around a sun to essentially accelerate. There's no point building some Star Trek engine on your ship. Just put your ship with the deceleration speed fuel, like the fuel to decelerate, and just accelerate it around your sun, because the sun has such a gravity wave. But in addition to the gravity field, it also has a massive magnetic power that can shoot you very fast.
So basically, it's like when you're like a sling. You're just winding it up on you with your arm, and then you just eventually sling it back, and then you just have propulsion to slow you down.
Yep. Again, slowing you down is let's just say hope that you get close enough to a star that will catch most of your velocity.
Yeah, because
this is where it can fall down. Like the first travel, because obviously there will be casualties in the first attempt.
You're gonna now be going through space at a constant speed forever.
Your fuel isn't really to slow you down. It's to move you sideways to align with a star to slow you down. And you'd basically use the whatever star you're trying to get to. You would move like right and left to align yourself to its magnetic field, and then just catch the magnetic field lines to slow you down. But they're like, yeah.
You would need some like 17th century English like privateer, sort of mad privateer, to be the sort of guy that would do it.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
How about a space parachute that uses solar sails?
That's what I was gonna say. To slow down, you'd basically need like a capacitance, something that could hold magnetic power. Like there are things that grip to magnetic threads. Like you see this in the Aurora Borealis. That's atoms getting stuck in our magnetic fields and like basically they're releasing energy from the pressure, from the friction of it. So you need something that would like you'd have a ship, and then you'd have like a mile long, not a solar sail but a magnetic sail that would basically grip the magnetic field lines of a star and slow you down. And that's the best you can hope for. You would accelerate by going around the sun on these, like the magnetic sails would essentially like accelerate off of the sun's magnetic fields, but you'd have to you'd have to control it in such a way that you would always catch the negative repulsion. So you need stations to hold onto the magnetic charge, and then you would essentially like create a kind of like magnetic surfer that would go around the rings of the sun that you built, and then you'd shoot yourself off when you got the speed you want. Now you can decelerate because of the chaotic nature of the magnetic field lines of the star you get to, so you only need fuel to adjust yourself to get there. But the main deceleration force is going to be the magnetic field lines on that star. Realistically, you're not going to send people. You're going to send robots to build a catcher station that then you can send people to slow down, because you can't just slow down. You're gonna need a lot of time to slow down. It'll kill you at that speed.
Yeah.
So ideally, you could also use these sails to gradually slow down on your way.
Because then then you'll also be there for an eternity.
Yeah, it'll take like a good century to slow down. So
yeah,
you need some way. You basically need some way to slow down slow enough that you don't die.
throw a nuke in front of you.
No. There are ways of slowing down gradually across that distance, because the magnetic fields of a star are massive.
What if you will go into orbit around a star? So basically,
you're going too fast. So you're going at the chorus speed of light. No, you're not going to slow down from the gravity.
I say now, if listen, this show is all fit. This is politics of gaming. Now, this is the sort of stuff because Jaws will be pissed off because he'll be wanting to come on here.
Well, I'll shut up. We'll wait for this for Jaws.
Yeah, we'll let Jaws. I'll promise I'll invite Jaws on if you're watching. I'll invite you on in the future, something like this, to talk about like Mass Effect relays and like space travel and all this sort of stuff. Because he has like multiple theories on this. He's talked about it with him and like Sam like countless times. So we've got plenty of content. But
I could do another 2 hours of discussion on Mass Effect though. I could really easily do it.
All right, let's.
We'll do part 2. We will do a part 2 on Mass Effect, because there are still
science of Mass Effect, right?
Well, we talk about this. You got the science. You got the planets we haven't looked at. We've got the we've got the actual games.
Animals, minerals, vegetables, everything is in Mass Effect.
Yeah, we haven't talked about what happens in the games. We haven't talked about like the characters.
So much.
Yeah.
I do
where we think the series should go, because I want to save this damn world, because it's too good to be left at EA's hands.
I do have to head out soon, so
yeah, cool.
Yeah,
let's finish.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone, and obviously check out the Foundations podcast, which is tonight still.
No, we've delayed.
Oh yeah, because I am rescheduled, unfortunately.
Also, okay. I want to prepare a bit more for this one. We're doing next week now. Next Sunday, we'll be doing Renaissance, and then the week after that, we'll be doing our Christmas special.
Oh, fantastic! And yes,
what are you doing?
I think I'll probably try to organise something with you next week with Rubber to talk about the right and the distant right, because I want to do like a big want to get a few people for like maybe about 4 or 5 people on, and we can just do like a sort of debate sort of next week, and then of course the week after that I'll be on British Knights Christmas special as well, so on the 16th. So we can all check out that. I think Oh Wine and Cringewalker, are you on those as well?
I'm on the
I should probably try to get into it. I'll be right back real quick.
I'm on it. We're just wrapping up anyway, night. So
yeah, we're wrapping up anyway. So Yep. So we'll see you all in. I'll see you all later. And I'll say Cringewalker because he's gone off now. But I'll say thank you both for coming on. And I'll see you later. I've got to go now anyway. So